there, beer hunters and wadge bankers. Welcome to another episode of the Beer Huntress. I hope you're all exceptionally well. You've all seen enough of my videos now to know what's going to happen next. We're going to spin the wheel, it's going to pick a style for us, I'm going to pick a beer from there and we're going to review it. So, I'm not going to mess around, let's get cracking. Here we go. A dipper, a tipper or a quipper? I've actually got the perfect one for this that I got gifted by a friend of mine. I've been waiting for this to come up, so I'm going to go for a quipper today, a quadruple IPA. So we hit on dipper, tipper and quipper, and I was quite excited that we got that because I was gifted this particular beer from a gentleman I know called Andy Flusk. Hello there, Fluske. Thank you very much for this one. This is Polly's and this is their Quadruple IPA, which is their birthday beer. This is the single biggest brew these guys have ever produced at a whacking 13%. Absolutely insane when it comes to an IPA. This is one go big or go home kind of beer from these guys, and it's one hell of a send off for their old brew kit that they were originally brewing on from 2018, and they've now got some new brewing vessels in. So they thought they would push the boundaries, see how far they could get their brew kit to go, and produce this particular style. It was so big, this beer, that they had to brew it in 2 separate batches. It's a mega charged 15 kilogram Whirlpool edition of Chinook, Mosaic and Simcoe, which originally goes into it in the Whirlpool, and then they've rounded it off with 80 kilograms of dry hopping of Citra, Mosaic, Simcoe and Sabro. Sabro is the big up and coming hop at the moment, and definitely something I'm enjoying. We've got this original balance of kind of an offset of sweetness from the original edition of the hops with the added potencies, proper bona fide hop bomb style. Really sticky, juicy, tropical, and yeah, it's just going to be absolutely phenomenal. I've seen some of the reviews for this and they've been top, so I'm super excited to be able to try it myself. So shall we have a look at this particular beer? As with Polly's, I have to say their artwork isn't particularly extravagant. It's definitely eye-catching because it's just you know, such a recognised symbol across the front. We've got the Polly's teardrop just in the front here. They generally go a little bit more vibrant with the colouring and a little bit more impactful, but for this one they just seem to have gone really, really plain, which is just, yeah, just silver. You can't go wrong with it really. A little bit of info on the back, just a bit of hop information just there, nothing else particularly exciting, but it's definitely standing itself out there as being one of these kind of important beers for them, which I think it definitely is. Wow, check out the thickness on that. Wow. So, happy birthday to Polly's, or what was originally known as Local Polly. So they started out in 2018. These guys are based in Holland Farm, which is in Blackbrook in Mull. And Sean, their owner, was quite weary at the time of running quite cask-led breweries. He owned a brewery that was called the Blackbrook Beer Company, and that's where the genius of kind of Local Polly kind of came from, or Polly's as we know it now. The beers that he was producing under the Blackbrook name, he had to kind of stick with quite traditional methods, as the market in North Wales at the time was very traditional and they weren't really looking for anything that was kind of pushing the boundaries. I think, I wouldn't like to say directly, but I think Tiny Rebel probably kind of helped with that a little bit, because obviously we've got South Wales there making some influence that you can have a little bit more of a craft style thing going on. They decided to liquidate the Blackbrook Brewery after only 6 months of operating, and they completely rebranded, completely refocused, and they exclusively went for keg and for can. So canning we've got for this evening. They focus specifically on really fresh, modern and hop forward beers. Another one that we're going to be trying out today. I've had plenty of these guys' beers and they are really, really heavily hop forward. And after being subsidised by his parents to get some shiny steel tanks, which is the same tanks that this beer was brewed on the last time that this tank was used, they got some tanks in from China, and Local Poly actually started to produce out to the masses, and this happened around about January 2018. The original Local Poly name was an amalgamation of the 2 previous uses of the original brewery. Sean's twin brother James had a graphic design project called Loca Island, and previous to that the space was a working stable house where the family horse, who was called Polly, lived. After absolutely phenomenal first year for this brewery, their output had trebled in size and they'd started producing and exporting out into mainland Europe. This is where they hit a big snag, unfortunately. In the early March of 2019, they were produced with a cease and desist order from a company called Spendrups, which is a Swedish multinational company, and the Local Poly name actually infringed upon their trademark. One of Spendrups' umbrella brands was a can drink called Loca, and they were pretty much told they had to stop using the name, unfortunately. They did negotiate a deal. They were allowed to kind of run down all their existing stuff, but they renamed in May 2019 as Polly's Brew Co. And I think this is because they were pretty sentimental about the whole horse thing, and they decided they wanted to kind of, keep that as much. It wouldn't be fair really to lose that side of it. So let's have a look at it. So as we can see from it, very, very thin head here, so I'm expecting this to be really, really quite viscous, quite thick, quite creamy, very full. It has got a touch of a little bit of kind of a whitish head to it, just a touch of lace in there. The colour is perfect for a dipper, tipper, quipper, that kind of style. Really loving this dank, juicy kind of look to it. Looks almost like orange juice. Not quite as dank, say, as a New England or a Nipah or anything like that, but yeah, definitely loving the way that this looks. The colour on it's phenomenal. Just beautiful, gorgeous orange, little bit of yellow coming through at the top and the bottom. Definitely an orange juice kind of beer. Let's have a smell. Wow, gosh, that smells amazing. That smells absolutely beautiful. I can smell a multitude of hops in there going on. Citrus coming through really quite strongly. That mosaic's there as well, so I'm getting that tropical note, a little bit of mango. And the Sabro's profile in there too, because that pineapple's coming through quite strong. That's really, really beautifully juicy on the nose. Gosh, I can smell how heavy this is going to be though. I can just get a touch of booze on it, just a touch, just on the nose of it. But yeah, I think this is going to be quite a strong beer. At 13%, I should bloody hope so as well. But yeah, let's just see how this follows through. Ooh. Wow. Now that's complex. Again, got something similar to this when I had the Verdant Don't Tell Gus. I got some pomegranate. I'd love to know where that's coming from. I really would. I'm getting kind of that intense pineapple just up at the top. I've got a coconutty undertone here as well, which is very nice. Gorgeous body. Surprisingly, as much as the hops are impactful and they're really, really intense and really powerful, it's surprisingly smooth. It's not full, and I'm not thinking that it's kind of as weighty as I was expecting. I think I was expecting something a little bit more oily or tar-like or something like that. Definitely nowhere near that kind of style. So since launching in 2018, the brewery is now a tight-knit team of 6 of them running the day-to-day operations of the brewing. The founder, Sean, who we've been introduced to already, head brewer, Lally, the brewers, Scott, Guy and Matt, and then their head of sales, Aaron, as well. Their motto is to never stop improving, and I have to say I completely agree with these guys when they say this, because every single beer that they brought out, I've gone, these guys really know what they're talking about. They're absolutely massive about dank, juicy, hop forward, really beautiful beers, whether or not it's West Coast or East Coast, it makes no difference. They really know what they're talking about, and they're just amazing. They decided to only package into keg and cans because obviously this is optimal freshness, and they can keep the beer tasting as fresh as it possibly can, coming directly from the source. And they developed their own originals range, which is what they started with. I believe that range has now been discontinued, and now they have a range called the Augment range as well, and you can get different beers like that. Their next port of call is to do some barrel aging, and I am so excited to try that because I love a good barrel aged beer, so I'll be checking out that as soon as it comes in, and I might even do a review for you if it's available. That pomegranate's gorgeous. Pineapple up on the top. Just beautiful. Really nice. I love how they've done this with a quipper. I think a quipper is one of these kind of styles that people are a little bit nervous about because they don't really understand what it is. Now the quipper is a quadruple IPA, so it's a quadruple India Pale Ale. If you want a little bit more info on how we ended up at this kind of style, check out my video on Verdant Don't Tell Gus, because I go through the history of the dipper and how we started to develop the understanding and appreciation for hops a little bit more and move towards more really intense ABV beers. A quipper is generally considered to be between about 11% and anything above, pretty much. So double IPA is about 6 to 8%, tippers are about 9 to 11%, and so we're going 11% plus in order to be able to get the quadruple. Now, there is one caveat. Don't confuse a quipper with the Siren concept of a quipper. Now, Siren's one of my favourite breweries in the UK, and they produce a beer called Half Mast, and that's actually called a quipper because they consider it to be a quarter of a standard IPA. It's effectively a small beer, give or take. It's carefully created to kind of give the body of a quite strong beer, but have a really low alcohol body as well, and low alcohol ABV. Not to be confused. Quippers nowadays, from what we know of them, is quadruple IPA and this kind of beer. Now I'm looking at this and kind of thinking to myself, 13% heading towards a kind of wine region, and it's making me think of a dessert wine, and that's something that I'm actually loving at the moment. The hop profiles in it, just beautiful. That Chinook, Mosaic and Simcoe, it's originally gone into the whirlpool. The Chinook's got that little level of herbal flavour to it. The Simcoe's going to bring out quite a decent amount of citrus, and that Mosaic's going to push forward all that tropical fruit. So that's kind of initial flavours, and that's going to go into all the underlying process of this beer. The Citra, Mosaic, Simcoe and Sabro that's been added in as dry hopping, my gosh, is that going to make a massive difference. Sabro is a hop that everyone's loving right now. Really pineapple-y. It's a little bit like a younger sister of the Sriracha Ace kind of thing. A little bit of coconut going on there, a bit of more creaminess to it as well. Match that alongside with that Citra, Mosaic and Simcoe, so we've got a similar kind of profile that we've already got in the bittering level, but we're now adding this into the aromas and to the flavour profile. It's just going to blow us away. They've used so many hops in this and so much of it, but what else can you do to try and overcome that sweetness? In order to be able to get a beer kind of this weight, you've got to use an awful lot of malt, an awful lot. And the problem with using so much malt is you get an awful lot of malt sweetness to it. So you're going to try and mask that in some way. Best way to get rid of that sweetness so it's not cloy, it doesn't end up with it being quite viscous on the palate, or it's not going to be too sugary or too caramelized. Best way to do that is ramp up the hop profile as much as possible. Use absolute extra pale malt as much as possible, so you're going to get the lowest kind of caramelization from your malt coming through, the lowest sugar content as possible from your malt. And you're going to end up with this gorgeous, gorgeous kind of combination of the two coming together. And I'm pleased to say that these guys have done this really, really well. For a 13% beer, they've managed to mask that booze extremely well. There is some underlying sweetness to it, definitely there. And it hits about here, which is impressive. They've managed to hide it and mask it so the palate and the whole of my mouth is getting really, really intense kind of hot flavours, but I don't get that warmth booze and I don't get that cloyness until it hits a little bit later. And it just leaves a really nice, pleasant, warming sensation on the palate after the fact. It's actually making it almost liquid kind of sugar, so it's making me go, ooh, want a bit more, definitely. Yeah, really good. That pomegranate, beautiful. Really, really nice. I don't know if it's just me getting that. Totally getting that on a lot of these kind of beers at the minute, and I'm loving it. So if you've had this, guys, let me know in the comments what you thought of it. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video as much as I've enjoyed drinking this beer. Please check out the other videos on the channel and let me know what you think of those as well. I'm going to drink the rest of this very slowly because it is 13%, and I shall see you next time for another episode of Beer Huntress. Keep wedge banking and cheers! If you enjoyed this video, guys, then please like, subscribe and share it with your friends. Hit that notifications button to get alerts when our new video is out. We're also on Facebook, Twitter and on Instagram, so check out the links in the description and follow us on there as well. If there's anything you'd like to see us review, please pop it in the comments and we'll pop it in the pump for later. Keep wedge banking and I shall see you all next time for another episode of The Beer Huntress.